Hey everybody, Travis Bowman here. We're talking about the original Game Boy. Specifically, we're talking about the IPS screen mod for the original Game Boy. So what we have in front of us is the original Game Boy in the center. We've got the Game Boy Advance SP over there on the left. And we've got the Hyperkin Superboy with the Super Game Boy cartridge. All three of these are actually pretty popular solutions for playing your Game Boy games these days. What we're going to spend the most time talking about is the IPS screen on the original Game Boy, and whether or not it's worth it to install and spend the money on. Well, first things first, the IPS screen isn't really that expensive. I think it's 60 or 70 bucks depending on where you get it. You can pay somebody to do this for you, or if you're feeling frisky, you can attempt to do it yourself, and that's exactly what I did. And it was very finicky, and I'm no expert modder, but I managed to do it kind of. I say kind of because I kind of screwed it up a little bit. So before we go any further, let's take a closer look and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. There's our Game Boy DMG with the IPS screen. It's going to be kind of difficult to tell on camera, I think, or maybe you've already noticed it, but when I installed this screen, it's just a hair lopsided, and that's really a damn shame. And it's all my fault. I kind of screwed it up. I shouldn't have put it in there so hastily, but I did, and it's just a little lopsided. Is it unplayable? Absolutely not. I've gotten several hours of enjoyment out of this new screen here. I just wish it was perfect, and unfortunately it's not. It's all my fault. I screwed it up. But let this be a lesson to those of you who are trying to eventually do this yourself. Just take your time, be very careful. There's no going back at this point. I can't open it back up because the adhesive is so strong. If I were to open this back up and try again, I could potentially screw up the screen, and it's just not worth another $60 or $70 to try to do this again. So I'm living with it. I'm happy with it at this point. So you're taking out the old components for the screen and replacing it with the new one, and with that you get a board, and this board is attached to your contrast knob. Now normally you would just use this to change your contrast, but now we've got an actual button, and that will change your color schemes up like so. So you can get the original black and white if you want. Red, I don't know why you want to do that. This is the one I tend to like the most. It's kind of mimicking the Super Game Boy color scheme a little bit. I've really enjoyed this one out of most of them. Sometimes I'll go back to that pea soup green depending on the game, but it's really nice to have these different color palettes that you can use. Now if you hold this, you've got some options here, and you can scroll up and down. You can have your battery display on or off, and that's pretty nice. The pixel effect is interesting. So it's a little more blurry, a little more closer to the original experience. We're basically just trying to make it pixelated by doing this pixel effect. So I'm going to turn that back on and hold it to turn it off, and you can adjust the screen just a little bit. You can move it left and right and up and down and stuff, and yeah, I've done that. It's still noticeable. It's still a little lopsided, but it's fine. It's whatever. I've really gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it despite the fact that I screwed this up. But there you have it, the IPS mod for your original Game Boy. So what if you don't want to do something like this and you're just looking for an original Game Boy experience without having to modify your old Game Boy? Well, there's always the old SP. Everybody tends to like the SP, particularly this one, which is the AGS 101 there. This is the one to get because of the fact that it's actually got a backlight instead of a front light like the AGS 001. This is a great way to experience some original Game Boy games as well. However, most people do not prefer this form factor because it's a little bit smaller. You know, I really like the chunkiness of the original Game Boy. This one's a little smaller, and I've got big hands, so it's not too comfortable, but at the same time it's not like super uncomfortable at all. These are the most desirable of the Game Boy Advance SPs because of that backlight. So you're gonna pay a hefty price unless you can find one at a garage sale or something. So it depends. It really depends on when you're watching this video, how many years into the future we are, about how much these are going for, but look it up. You might be surprised. And another solution, which is kind of strange, odd, would be the Superboy with the Game Boy player attachment for your Super Nintendo. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Superboy, it's exactly what it looks like. It's just a handheld version of your Super Nintendo. You've even got controller ports for your Super Nintendo controller if you want. You can connect this up to your TV via composite. Unfortunately, that's the best video quality you're going to get out of this guy is composite, and you can even kind of see that on the screen. You know, it might be hard to tell over this video, but the screen quality is not that great. So let me see here. I'll continue this so you can kind of get an idea. Yeah, it's hard to tell on the screen because it's so small. That's another thing too. You know, on your TV hooked up to your Super Nintendo, this would be really great, having it nice and big, but in this form factor right here, it's kind of small, and the video quality is very soft, very soft video quality, and it doesn't look the best. So if it were me, out of these three, which one would I prefer? Obviously, it's going to be the original Game Boy with the modded screen because I put in all that money and work and I want to get some use out of it. Now, you can stretch the screen on the 101, but that's not preferred. I don't know anybody that likes that. I mean, I guess I see the appeal because it's a larger screen and you can see more real estate and all that good stuff, but ugh, just having this stretched is not a good thing in my eyes. I would rather have it be the original aspect ratio. It looks off to me. So there's our original Game Boy with the IPS screen. You can get these from a lot of different sources. There's so many of them out there right now. So I'll put a link in the description below where I got mine. It's really hard to tell which one of these is like the best one or which is the original one because there's just so many different options out there. So for 60 or 70 bucks, is it worth it to mod your original Game Boy? I would say, oh yeah, hell yeah. It's it looks really great, and you know, growing up with this thing, you know, I wish I had video footage of it stock, but I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know what that would look like. It's a world of difference, man. You know, growing up, we'd have to sit in front of a lamp just to be able to see this damn thing. So to have it, you know, backlit like this with all these beautiful pixels and colors and stuff like that, it's really something special. It's a really great experience to be able to play just like this on this original Game Boy, this big chunky Game Boy that I've come to love so well and have a lot of nostalgia for. And you know, with the color schemes, again, it's really cool. It's really cool to have that as a bonus. I like the pea soup green. It's just, that's nostalgia right there, my friend. Well, I hope this video was informative, and I hope it helped you make a decision on whether or not you wanted to do this yourself. There are plenty of video tutorials out there, and I'll post a link to the one that I followed in the YouTube description below. So let's start a discussion in the comment section below. Have you ever done something like this before to your Game Boy? Would you consider doing it in the future? Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Thanks so much for subscribing too. I really appreciate that. I'll see you guys at the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.